Supply chain management forward. This course is intended for all those who wish to deepen their understanding of business logistics and whose main objective is to seek the satisfaction of the client by being able to deliver the product at the right time and at the right place with the maximum efficiency possible. Throughout this manual, you will be provided with tools and knowledge necessary for understanding the complex process of production, storage, distribution, both nationally and internationally. We will deal with the planning and distribution processes, as well as thoroughly discuss important issues such as the documents required for the export of our products, the international markets, or the latest updates on the rules governing buyer and seller contracts. And at the end of this manual, in the appendix, by means of case study, you will see the main customs supports and export documents, as well as the Spanish logistics strategies published by the Spanish Ministry of Public Works. Introduction to logic, or logistics rather. Right, all right, here we go. The process of planning, implementing, and efficiently controlling the flow of raw materials, semi-finished products, finished products, and related information from the point of origin to the point of consumption in order to satisfy customer requirements. Logistics is crucial for the commercial sector. It is seen as the bridge between production and the market, which are normally separated by time and distance. Logistics in a company. Logistics also play a key role in a company. It is thanks to logistics that any business project can be carried out in order to obtain profitable results, producing benefits without forgetting to please the customer. In business, logistics involves both planning and resource management tasks. Its function is to efficiently implement and control materials and products. The logistics model is present from the point of origin to the point of consumption in order to meet the customer's needs at the lowest possible cost. As we will see later, the origins of logistics stems from the military sphere. Logistics of the 1940s were only concerned with the efficiency of storing and transporting materials, which were essential for facing the war. Otherwise, the soldiers could suffer from a shortage of the means necessary to deal with the combatants. So we have the types of logistics. When we speak of logistics, we can identify the following types. Supply statistics in the logistics changes would be in the first phase. It is concerned with managing the raw materials needed to manufacture a product or service that is offered to a customer. It needs good sourcing policy, namely defined delivery limits, management of transport, location of materials, and good information services in systems. For the entrepreneur, it means placing necessary orders with suppliers and having a warehouse or premises that allows them to store the goods until they are needed. Production logistics. In this second phase, a company manages the internal flow of materials that correspond to the given production process. It includes the transition of the semi-manufactured products from one phase to another on the production line, as well as the withdrawal of products already produced. The distribution logistics. In this last phase, the goal is to make the deliveries to the customer or final distributor, so as to prevent the accumulation of goods in the place that is intended for storage. Management implies a policy of distribution, which, among other things, defines the different distribution channels, internal or external, so that the final product reaches the customer. Okay, now we have a graph. Supply, supplier, production, distribution, clients. The logistics techniques used in this phase of supply and distribution are similar. Table 1 compares different logistics, although they are not always required. So we have orders, yes. Supply, yes. Distribution, yes. Stock market, yes and yes. Transport, yep, for both ends. Customer care, no, because we're not there yet. And yes. Purchases, yes, certainly that. And no, because it's already done. Packaging. That's interesting. They put packaging in that. I would have thought otherwise. But storage, yes, absolutely. Product planning, of course. Treatment of goods. And information management. As can be seen, the majority of activities are the same for the supply and distribution phases. Activities such as the customer care or single packaging are necessary at the distribution stage because in the supply phase, one gets in touch with the supplier, not the customer, and raw materials do not need to be packed. Oh, well, that explains why that was. I guess it was really, in my opinion, there should have been maybe 3 stages. Let's have a quick look. Supply, production, and distribution. Yeah, and yet they're only talking about 2 stages. Supply and distribution. Oh, I see. Okay. The middle phase is, that's why I didn't mention packaging per se. On the contrary, we can see that purchasing activities affect only the supply channel. It is through these purchases where the sources are selected or the quantities are being acquired or determined. The 3 types of logistics defined so far refer to types of logistics that have as their objective the material flow from the origin, the raw materials, to the final product. Now we are going to try to define 2 other types of logistics widely used and essential in any company nowadays. Reverse logistics. It deals with the organization of physical and administrative workflows in relationship to the orders involving refund. Mhm. It collects the product from the consumer to retrieve its value through the repair of the product or the final destruction. This path entails different planning than the ones discussed above. Then we have environmental logistics. It's carried out by a group of workers responsible for organizing and classifying industrial waste. The respect for the environment, which contributes to the reduction of pollution, is increasingly valued in companies. The objective of environmental logistics is to properly dispose of waste and, if possible, recycle. The characteristics and basic concepts. To understand the concept of logistics, we should pay attention to the following aspects. Control, planning, and information. Control, it is necessary to have a real control over the merchandise. In this way, it can be easier to know what quantity is available for storage, as well as the flow of material that we may need. And planning, in order to have good control over the goods, there must be rigorous planning of the movements involved in the logistics activity, and information is required for coordinating planning and control actions. Nowadays, increasing amounts of information come in from the digital form, since we can obtain and modify it with ease and from any place in the world that has access to the internet. I suppose this is the perfect order. The right product, the proper amount, the exact moment needed, the perfect documentation, and the exact information. And minimum price is what we're hoping for, flexibility and trustworthy delivery. So far, we have focused a lot of attention on concepts involving a more industrial side of the logistics process. However, it is important to understand logistics as an activity that also integrates the customer, or what we might call the consumer. The three characteristics that are described below are fundamental: reliability, efficiency, and quality. Reliability encompasses the logistics system with the rest of the company's departments. Logistics have to be reliable and predictable in order to have a good planning. Efficiency, it is very important not to confuse this concept with effectiveness, which seeks to achieve a certain result. Efficiency, on the other hand, is understood as a fulfillment of the objective with the use of lower cost or resources. Logistics of a company is usually quite expensive because it generates expenses for storage and transport, etc. And then we come to quality. It encompasses the planning, control, information, efficiency, and reliability. It consists of moving the product from the warehouse directly to the consumer in the time and in the manner that they demand. Now we come to evolution. The evolution of statistics is marked by two factors that have been emerging more strongly over the years, mainly the growth of international trade and new technologies, and these two areas have been renewed over time. Most notable change over the last decade are described below. The field of business logistics aroused interest after World War II. In 1945, in France, people began to associate military logics with industrial production. The term industrial logistics was established from the knowledge of technical supply of material, placing the importance on its possible contribution to the reduction of production costs. However, at the time the term logistics was focused on the scope of the distribution of goods, there was no global vision for provisioning to the final destination. One of the next steps in the 1950s was the use of logistics to improve the quality and delivery time. In the 1960s, some companies began to specialize in logistics. Other services were outsourced to specialists in order to reduce costs. In the 1970s, as a result of the oil crisis, the cost of transport, inventory, and material handling increased. As a consequence, logistics went from being a simple distribution to an integrated process, taking into account both the supply and the internal handling of the materials within the company. That marked the advent of a new concept, just-in-time. This concept deals with providing the exact quantity at the exact moment at the exact time. In this way, the costs are reduced even more as only the necessary amount of material is being delivered. Since the 1980s and especially in the 1990s, the integrated logistics model has been established. This change is possible due to the advances such as the exchange of information, the consideration of the customer as an essential part of logistics concept, and the improvement of relations with the suppliers, the emergence of leading companies and strategic alliances. Today, this concept is evolving even more, integrating each of the parts of the logistics network. It is considered as a process that incorporates the entire organization. It aims to anticipate customers' requirement, managing the necessary resources to ensure the distribution of goods and services to the final client. So we come to just-in-time. It was the concept of just-in-time that represented a major change in the logistics model. This production system was developed by the Japanese company Toyota Motor Corporation. Its great success was adopted by different companies in Europe and the United States in the 1980s. Just-in-time is a production method that eliminates unnecessary elements in order to increase profits by reducing costs. It is based on producing at all stages of the manufacturing process what is needed at the right time. John, you may recall the companies next door to Honda in Alliston, the materials that are delivered, let's say they have 12 doors that they need for particular model. They deliver precisely 12. Those don't exist in the Honda factory until the 12 doors are needed. So, doors or seats. And likewise, even knowing of the customer's needs. If they're in California, the size of the windshield washer fluid bottle is quite different than it is if they're in Manitoba. Like every model, it has advantages and disadvantages. The just-in-time is producing at all stages. Yes. Okay, by reducing the level of stocks in the entire production line, the cost of purchasing, financing, and storage automatically decreased, minimizing the losses from obsolete supplies, stacks and stacks of car doors in old factories. I can tell you one problem, though. If one of those doors in the Honda factory was faulty, or the holes were in the wrong place, you'd see a car go right through the line without a door, because there was no secondary door, no secondary left door on the passenger side, or no, the right side, front door. No, there wasn't another one to replace it. Anyway, minimizing the loss for obsolete supplies, promoting the grouping of supplies in a few suppliers, thus establishing closer and long-term relations. The system is more flexible and allows faster changes. Now, the disadvantages may arise due to the lack of supplies or holdups, causing suspension and delays of production lines. The cost increases if we want to change the supplier. The just-in-time philosophy establishes what is called the 5 zeros, which refer to 5 elements of the production chain when cost should be 0. These elements are the following: 0 defects in the process of production and distribution, trying to identify and control the emergency of defects or damaged products, thus eliminating any unnecessary costs and therefore achieving a more productive manufacturing process. To do this, the checks will have to be established so as to avoid unnecessary expenses in aspects such as work, machinery, or sales. And you may recall that car that was going entirely through the line, getting all of the other parts except a front passenger door. Okay, so what happens is at the end of the line, it comes shipping off the line, goes to a special sort of a tool shop, if you want to call it that, that will deal with what are we going to do with this car that has a broken door or a non-existent door. And that would possibly have to be included in the next shipment or something along those lines. So they don't want any defects, but they do happen, I assure you. 0 failures. If we want to serve our customers at the right time and at the right required amount, we must avoid any type of breakdown of our machines. To reduce faults to a minimum, we will have to be very demanding with the maintenance process, programs, and staff training so as to be more effective and better oriented when it comes to prevention and solving minor incidents that may have arisen during the workday. 0 failures, 0 defects, 0 stock. The just-in-time philosophy should be preserved, aimed at minimizing inventories and carrying out productions in accordance to the demand and therefore the actual sales. This will generate large savings without requiring large investments, since only production rates adjusted to existing orders at the given time are needed, thus reducing the cost and improving the quality of service offered to the customers. 0 delays. During the period of waiting, preparation, and transit of the product, delaying deadlines tends to generate and accumulate large amounts of stock, thus diminishing the quality of the product and therefore the quality of the service and the company's image. So it will be of utmost importance to establish a good procedure for the procurement and distribution stages, which will, with the help of good conditioning, coordination among all the agents involved in the process, will reduce the cycles of the manufacturing products. Okay? And 0 bureaucracy. An internal system of information must be simple, functional, and effective, with the aim of eliminating any superfluous costs resulting from an excess of bureaucracy and paperwork. We must rely on computerization of the process of management and storage of information, thus achieving simplification of administrative tasks. Design of logistics network. The design of logistics network defines the internal and external elements of the business plan that it consists of. It is essential to define the time at which each process should be conducted. When it comes to the internal elements, we should take into account the production sites, warehouses, and distribution centers. This will form part of the infrastructure of the company that provides the solutions to the needs of customers. The design of the logistics network is determined by two key concepts: minimizing the total cost of the network, fulfilling the service requested by the consumer. The employer should consider these two factors at the production stage. Each case will be different depending on the type of product. Likewise, it will also depend on the variety and quantity of the product produced, as well as the subsequent marketing. Once the product and the production characteristics have been established, it is necessary to consider aspects such as provisioning. For example, if it is necessary to have space for storage. In the marketing of the product, we need to focus on several aspects such as the geographical area of marketing, the number of customers, and the level of requirement by them. It is necessary to take into consideration various external elements which are equally important. First, the globalization of marketing. Secondly, the legal regulation of logistics activities. And finally, unexpected diversity of customers. The logistics process. As we have seen so far, logistics is related to the management of the flow of goods and services, starting with the acquisition of raw materials and finishing with the delivery of the product. This implies logistics activity should be coordinated through an effective flow of information and thus closing the circle with the highest efficiency possible. In this section, you will see the different phases of logistics process, the different parts of the process made up in Figure 2. Here we go. Stock, manufacturer, shipping, distribution, purchase, receiving, storage, stock. Remember, there's returns. Purchases. To supply a company, we must first know the different types of existence of companies. There are manufacturing companies where raw materials are purchased by suppliers. Once the company has these materials, they are stored in their property until they are used at the production process. And service companies. And in this case, the flow can be of materials, documents, or of people as a service to the public. Suppliers play a vital role in the logistics flows of the company in such a way that their decisions affect, in one way or another, the rest of the production chain. It can be noted that the cost of the consumer's company's purchases grow continually, accounting for almost 80% of the total expenditure of the logistics flow of the company. Companies' purchases grow continually. This choice of a good provider will then be the decision that has to be taken carefully so that it meets the real needs of our company. Therefore, one needs to take a series of essential steps to make that right decision. Classification of purchases. First of all, we must distinguish between all materials and materials that are needed. All materials as opposed to materials. A list can be made with a classification of purchases by family group, among which we can differentiate between raw materials, equipment, consulting, etc. Oh, I see what you mean. However, we must also bear in mind other aspects. For example, there will be purchases with more contribution to the quality of a final product, others classified as rarities that are also involved in the product. Supplier customer relationships. Putting aside the desires of the entrepreneur to find the best supplier possible, someone with a good price, close proximity, trustworthy, it may cause the following problems. Putting it aside, to figure that the contract between the supplier and the employer indicates. That is to say, whether it requires greater or lesser dedication in relationship to the income than is going to be made. The supplier must be able to ensure the successful delivery at all times. I see where we're going on this. Provider must feel pressure given that many businesses impose quality controls on the products or materials delivered. Oh, yeah. Priority, product or supplier. Once the 2 points have already been raised, we need to give priority to either the product that is going to be marketed or the supplier that is going to be hired. This decision will depend on each company. We define inventory as the amount of stored merchandise controlling the movement in and out of the company. Input movements are understood as the arrival of materials for the production of goods, while output movements require to those products coming out of the company with the aim of being sold to customers. We can differentiate between 3 types of inventory: raw materials, semi-produced products, and finished products. Maintaining good control over inventory is fundamental to regulating the relationship between the supply and demand for the product that are manufactured in the company. If there is any alteration in any of these 3 types of inventory, the production process can be interrupted. The interruption can appear due to the interruption of the initial. The interruptions can appear due to the interruption of the initial production process due to a lack of raw materials. The interruption of production processes in the intermediate phases. There would be a problem in the middle of the different stages of production. The lack of availability of finished products would prevent us from corresponding adequately with our customers. Every company aims to achieve a perfect harmony in the optimal level of supplies, avoiding an excess and causes expenses that may rise in high inventory. Distribution is one of the final stages where the company focuses its efforts on improving the logistics process. The distribution can be done when the process of elaboration of the product has been completed and it is ready to be delivered to the customer. To avoid unnecessary costs, it is important to manage this stage as well. The high-cost task. This period is the one where of the last within the logistics network, and at the time the product already has a high added value, so its cost is very high for the company. Coordination of the product. Such factors as new customer demands, the decrease in the cycle of production, and the response time in the face of growing market demands make it very important to organize an efficient production output for the production center. Good customer care. Good management of this stage will reduce the order preparation times and the percentage of damaged products, which can give the company a competitive edge based on faster customer service. We can provide the customer with a set of services that will bring us closer to them and create a greater complicity. We can facilitate their access to our online catalogs that show our products with detailed information about their characteristics, price, delivery time, etc. And another option is to provide the customer with a reliable commitment date for receiving the order. The company achieves a reduction in costs and a greater fluidity within the chain of production.